Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, I am black. Oh, done it again. Do it every single time. And you know something? That joke has run too far now, right? I am back, right? I've been on for quite a while now. Probably been like at least a good 3 months, I'm sure. Right? I'm sure it might have been like August. Anyway, but anyway, I'm back. And I have to stop using the I'm black because that one's kind of obvious, right? And especially that to white police officers, because this skin tone seems to make them turn their vehicles round and chase it down. I don't know, it must be something to do with it being the complete opposite of their skin tone. So so that's all I can put it down to. Do you know what I mean? Because the stop and search figures are back in again, and it's like 8 or 9 times more likely if you're this skin tone or Asian, right? Or mixed race, any but then again, travelers will get the same thing. It depends on whether or not they can be identified as travelers and stuff like that. But it just seems to be, I don't know. It just seems with this skin tone seems to, turn these police officers' head completely around. They just do that thing, but in that film where the person does the head where it just turns completely around. They do that, right, every time they see this skin tone or an Asian skin tone. And worldwide politics. I mean, Brexit England, right, and worldwide politics has just gone off the motherfucking scales, right? I don't know what is wrong with these people, right? I mean, we just seem to, it seems to be mainly the Conservatives. And they just seem to be, because all they're pushing is culture wars. Whereas you've got the Democrats and you've got Labour in this country who will be talking about policies. But a lot of times they find themselves getting drawn into all this nonsense about, with the culture wars, where they're trying to talk about policies, but they get dragged into culture wars. When Donald Trump was out on the weekend talking about we'll speak about this in a little while, speaking about how they're poisoning the blood. I mean, the last time we'll speak about that in a little while. And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. And thank you so much to all the people who have said, damn, man, where the hell are you? Thank you to all you people who have asked where the hell I've been. But, sometimes you just need to take some time out of these type of things, because these type of things, when speaking about politics, especially when you've got all the completely wrong people in politics, and it can make your motherfucking head hurt. Right? Seriously, that's what it could do. It can make your head hurt. But anyway, let's get on with this shit, right? Because we need to speak about Donald Trump, right? Because Donald Trump was out, I believe, in a rally over the weekend. I don't know where it was, but he was out in a rally, and just the language that he's using is very, very much reminiscent of Adolf Hitler. Poisoning the blood. That's what Adolf Hitler was saying about Jewish people. He was saying that type of thing, and wanting to lock up. Talking about locking up migrants in America, in America, like, bringing in like detention camps and these type of things, right? So, he's using very, very dangerous rhetoric. But then so is Rishi Sunak. Rishi Sunak over here is using the same type of rhetoric, right? And on the weekend just gone, he was somewhere in Europe with Georgia Maloney. Right, and I think the BBC has described it as being like a far right, basically a far right rally type thing. That's what the BBC has described it as. And over here, right, the right wing media are losing their motherfucking minds over that. Right, but once you go on a stage with Georgia Maloney, then that's some far right bullshit. Right, that's what that is, and that's what these guys are using, and especially for Sunak and Trump. they're using the culture wars because both of them have got elections coming up soon. So they're using, the only thing they can use. But for someone like Sunak, I'd say, this shit is very, very dangerous, right? And, you got to look at, like, because Britain and America are so close with, with their politics, right? They're just like, the Americans are just like, they're just like the British, but just on steroids and a lot of drugs and alcohol. Right, that's who the Americans are. They're just like, it's just overly embellished. It's all bright. It's all glitzy. Over here, we're much more subdued. That's why we don't have guns, but we're much more subdued, right? And as our politics is. But when it comes down to the bare brass tacks of it, right, these guys, right, are some motherfucking evil motherfuckers. These guys are seriously twisted. Trump, with the language that he's using, and and the people that are following him. You got to look at the people who are following him, because for him to be able to use that language, he can only use that language because people want him to. Right? If he was out in a rally and there was very few people there, then that would show him, well, actually it's because of the language that you're using, because in America they might not want a dictator, and Trump is there praising, like, Putin, and saying that Putin is talking about how it's out of order what them persecuting Trump. Right? Putin, Vladimir Putin, that's who Donald Trump is quoting and saying, well, what they're doing to Donald Trump is wrong. Putin. If you are Putin's opponent in Russia, right, then here's some things what I suggest you shouldn't do. You don't need to go near anybody who's got an umbrella. You need to make sure that every single cup of tea or any beverage that you're drinking is prepared by you. You don't need to go on a train. You certainly don't need to go on an airplane or a helicopter. And you don't need, and if you have to live in exile, you don't need to meet any Russians while you're living in exile. Right? And certainly don't find yourself walking past the Kremlin. That's who Donald Trump is quoting. I'm not surprised. It won't surprise me if he also quoted Kim Jong-un. The only person, who made Kim Jong-un into anything was Donald Trump. Kim Jong-un he's got nuclear weapons, that if he was to fire one of them, I could probably build something in the time, right, it takes to get over here, right? I could probably build something to blow it out of the sky. The things are so fucking large, right? He might as well, Kim Jong-un might as well just take a whole era, just a whole train, and just throw it at you. His nuclear weapons are that big, right? So the only one who made, and it wouldn't surprise me, if Donald Trump wouldn't be quoting someone like Kim Jong-un as well. Because, he's saying that, like, that all these prosecutions are coming from, like, Biden. But I can tell you, it wouldn't take, Biden doesn't need to encourage black people to prosecute Donald Trump. I'm telling you that is just a simple fact, right? Because Donald Trump, his whole life has been about very much been about one of racism. Whether or not Donald Trump is a racist is something completely different. Because Donald Trump, I think is much more of a populist than a racist. I think he's much more, he's just seen that wave, and he's seen that, even though, he was seen to be at, like, Ku Klux Klan rallies with his dad when he was a young man. And, he did get, sued for not renting out buildings to black people back in, I think, the 70s or the 80s. And then plus, he did try and get the Central Park guys, the death penalty, even though they was innocent. He tried to get them the death penalty. At the time, he didn't know they was innocent, but he's never apologized to them, right? Come out and said to them, listen, I'm really sorry, that I tried to get you the death penalty and you're innocent. He's never come out and apologised, but that's what he tried to do. And now, whether or not, right, there was white guys who raped the woman in Central Park, whether he would have tried to get them the death penalty, that's something we'll never know. We'll never know. We will never know that. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know if that situation has happened. So we'll never know whether or not, he would go to get them the death penalty, or whether he just, he just keeps that type of attention for black people. So we will never know. But, his rhetoric is just like, and then you got Rishi Sunak, obviously he's had to, another one who's gone, Suella Braverman. He's had to get rid of Suella Braverman just a couple of weeks ago because, she stepped out she stepped out much too far, just so far back, but he's still going down the same lines that he was going down before. And this is so, when I say it's so dangerous for the simple fact is, when people are fleeing their countries, countries that more than likely, the Europeans have disrupted, because that's mainly what happens. Most of these countries have been disrupted by the Europeans. Oh, you know what I forgot to tell you? Today, I'm just doing this video in a populist way, right? So I'm just, I've got nothing written down or anything, right? I'm just doing this in a populist way. So we're just talking about all the populist things that's going on around the world, right? So you see, when most people are fleeing their countries, right, majority of people stay in the region where they, they might stay in a neighbouring country, or a lot of people stay in other countries in Europe, or they might stay in in France. A lot of people stay in France, even though the French have got. I mean, if you get to this country, then they stick you in a hotel. But I mean, a lot of times they're doing that, just to wind up the natives. They're making sure, because I mean, if they do that, you've got people living on the streets, right, who the politicians walk past every single day. And then you've got people who will come to this country on a little boat or underneath a lorry, or, some other way, some way they'll get into this country. And the first thing they'll do is they'll take them and put them into hotels, while they've got Brits living on the streets. But all of that, is done on purpose to deliberately wind people up, right? So that will certainly keep the masses angry. And I mean, that's what a lot of this populism is. That's what a lot of these populist policies are about. It's just about, they can wind the masses up by doing moves like that. By, I mean, you would think that they have some proper centres that are dedicated to this, not take over loads of hotels. I mean, you'd only do something like that, right, if you want to deliberately wind people up. And that's what they've been doing. They've been doing it for years. I mean, look what they're spending, right? They're spending, I mean, their bill was £7 or £8 million a day, right, on hotel bills. How much centres? I mean, you could build centres. You could, for a couple of £1 million, you could probably put up a good few centres, right, where you could house these people, right, rather than putting them up in hotel rooms while you've got people living on the streets. But as I say, it's all something that these people do to just wind up the masses in this country. So the whole, Britain, Europe, America, Australia, all these places, are, they're all very much living off of populism. I mean, you've just had in Holland, you've just had Geert Wilders get, I think he got most of the votes. He got the biggest share of the votes for the first time ever, and he's very much been in the parliament for quite a long time, And I think in his party, he's the only one in his party as well. So, whether or not, I don't really think any of the others are really going to work with him. And obviously, in Italy, you've got Giorgia Meloni, and now you've got this situation that has kicked off in Gaza that could end up taking a lot of votes off of Biden and Sunak, because they're gonna struggle to get the votes of the progressives. I mean, they're gonna really, really struggle to get the votes of the progressives now, because we've watched the situation start in Palestine, in Gaza. We've watched that situation start, and we've watched it go from the 7th of October, where Hamas has gone and they've committed horrific acts in Israel, just absolutely just horrific. But this response, has just been much too much. This is just, this response is just over the top. I keep on asking these presenters. I haven't actually I've gone on the radio and actually asked any of them, but I do tweet them and say to them, listen, how much black and brown people do you have to slaughter before it becomes a genocide? Because we know 20,000 Caucasians, that's way past genocide. They've been talking about genocide a long time ago. But when it comes down to black and brown people, how many needs to be murdered before you can say, well, this is genocide? This now is genocide, because I'm saying it's genocide a long time ago, and all you have to do is just hear the way how the Israelis are actually speaking, because they're calling them like human animals, and this is people in the Knesset who will say this type of stuff, and Netanyahu, just one of the world's most evil men, been voted in so many times. If you ever wanted any type of peace with the Palestinians, then you would have never voted in Netanyahu. Netanyahu has never wanted a two-state solution. From the 70s, there's videos of him talking about that, not having a two-state solution. The Israeli Prime Minister, that's what we got, Prime Minister or President? Well, I think Prime Minister, right, has the one who got murdered, one who got assassinated, his wife blames a lot of it on Netanyahu for him being assassinated, and Netanyahu, I believe at that time, was very much against. And this guy, he was murdered, but he was assassinated by a far right, one of the far right Israelis. So so obviously they didn't want. There's never, the two-state solution is something that that a lot of them have been fighting against, and by them financing Hamas, they was always, because they just use that system of divide and conquer. So they financed Hamas to go up against the PLO and whatever other much more left-leaning Palestinian groups there are, finance Hamas to go after them, right? And so that's just your divide and conquer tactic, because if they're fighting amongst each other, it makes it much more difficult for them to say, well, something, we want to have a separate state. Or because I'm not sure whether or not a two-state solution is even going to work now. I think they're probably they probably should just have maybe one state, right, for all of the people, and everybody to have exactly equal rights. Because I've even had people say to me, well, how would you deal with, what would you do then to get rid of Hamas? And I would do in the same way how the British government dealt with Ireland, with the IRA. Wouldn't, I would say, first of all, it would be purely special forces. Wouldn't flatten buildings because, we've got a death toll of what, 18 to 20,000. That's people that's above ground. But all those people that are trapped under those buildings that the Israelis have blown up. So that, we could have another 10 or 12 or 15,000 people, bodies, to be pulled out of that rubble after, because so many people have been slaughtered. Right? And, so when people say to me, "Oh, how would you do it?" I say, "Well, I would have sent in special forces to go and root out Hamas," because you're saying, well, where all these tunnels are, what you're claiming that there are, and they hide amongst the civilian population. If they hide amongst the civilian population, then surely you should know. Well, you can't go and indiscriminately bomb them. I mean, that's just. If you're saying, well, they're hiding amongst, right, and it's Hamas's fault for the 18 or 20,000 civilians that you've murdered. It's Hamas's fault. Well, if that's Hamas's fault, surely Israel's treatment of the Palestinians, right, is the reason for Hamas then. I mean, it's got to work both ways, hasn't it? If it's Hamas's fault, then surely it's Israel's fault that Hamas exists. If you want to blame Hamas for you going in and firing tanks at civilians or firing from F-15s at civilians, right? Or firing rockets from ships, if you want to blame Hamas for that, then you've got to accept that you're responsible for Hamas. Then, if you're blaming, but that's what's going on. I mean, it's just real double. I mean, the standards are more than double. I mean, just more than double the standards there. But it's a situation that has been brewing up for so many years because the Palestinians have endured like 8 decades of an apartheid, and now they're just now they have to endure the real ethnic cleansing because. The amount of buildings that have been destroyed in Gaza, the amount of hospitals, because they've just destroyed most of the hospitals in Gaza. I mean, I don't think there's any left. And now people are dying through starvation and through disease, because they've got to be drinking dirty water. And I mean, the whole world has seen all of this going on, and their thing is, well, it's like they're just saying the Palestinians deserve what they're getting. That's how to me, that's how it seems like the world are looking at it, that the Palestinians absolutely deserve what they're getting. And 8 decades of an apartheid. But anyway, let's talk about some other stories, because we've got P. Diddy seems to be in all sorts of different problems. I mean, he seems to be in as much problems as Rudy Giuliani. And you know something, right? When I look at the Rudy Giuliani story, I just look at that and say, this is, I could only be more amused about this story, more happy about this story. I mean, if the money was coming to me, I'd be, but I'm still just over the moon that Rudy Giuliani, right, has to give all his money to a couple of black women. Because the hate this man has shown to the black community his whole life. And it's just so a poetic justice now, right, that this man, right, who has looked at these two women, these two election workers, and he said all sorts of stuff about them, right, when he had no right to, but he said all sorts of stuff about them, and now he has been fined $148 million. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for them to get that much amount of money out of him. I mean, if you're going to get fined something like that, yeah, then you want to make sure that that the fine, right, it has got to be paid by someone like Jeff Bezos, right, where you know to yourself, well, you're going to get the money. There's no messing about. We're there. But with Rudy Giuliani, I mean, he's got some assets, right? Because I think he's got some New York apartments, and I mean, New York apartments are very, very, very expensive. I mean, very, very expensive. So I think he's got something in Manhattan as well, and then he's got something out near Mar-a-Lago as well. So all of that will have to be sold, and then for the rest of his life, but I think he's 80, isn't he? But for the rest of his life, he's going to be paying out to these women, and he can't even go bankrupt because this type of lawsuit you can't even go bankrupt on, so he can't even go down that route. So for Rudy Giuliani, things are just really taken a real nasty turn. But P Diddy, so much allegations that come out against P Diddy. It's just like just look and say, well, this is just terrible. This is, just allegation after allegation after allegation. And I always say to these guys, they'll put you in prison. Just ask Robert Kelly, right? Or Bill Crosby, right? Just ask those people, right? Because, once they've got those allegations against you, right? It's not going to matter how much money you've got, right? They'll throw your ass in prison. And, some of the allegations what I've heard about Diddy, right, these carry like 30, 40-year jail sentences. So he really needs to mind. And you've got a lot of the other artists. 50 Cent is just every time 50 Cent sees him, it's just like he's kicking him straight in the short and curlies and having a good old laugh about it. But before I go, we should speak about some Brexit. How is Brexit going? Not very well. I've heard that the farmers are really losing their tiny little minds. And that's the reason why I say the tiny little minds is because a lot of these bitch-ass fools voted for it. They vote, See, this is what I don't understand. I don't understand how someone can convince you to vote for something that you can see is going to hurt you. If you're a farmer and you voted for Brexit, then you're stupid. Then again, I don't need to say, well, that doesn't come from me. There was a study out a couple of weeks ago that said that Brexiters are not the most stupid people in the country. Listen, I didn't bring out the study. That's what they've said. They said that people that voted, they said if there's a couple and there's one that voted for Brexit and one was a Remainer, they said that the one who voted for Brexit is an arse, stupid, uneducated fool. This is not my words. Well, those are my words because they put it in a completely different academic way. Right, because those people like to insult you with, they insult you with very, very much intelligent words, right? So that's what they've said. That's what this study said. This study has said, if you're a Brexiter, then you're a damn arse. And the farmers, right, a lot of them are complaining. But, if you look at everything in this country, everything along the way, right, whatever it is, right, has literally flown up in price. We've had virtually a doubling and sometimes more than a doubling of our food costs. You can really see it in the shops now. You can really see it in the shops now. So a lot of that is down to Brexit. But, even still, growth was down the other day, but Rishi Sunak in the House of Parliament said that it was up, and the day before or even on the same day, the growth figures came out and it was down, but he's just liked him in the House of Parliament and said it was up. But they're still trying to convince the people in this country that somehow they can grow the economy. They've got absolutely no chance, right, of growing the economy. Just what gets me is the amount of lies that can come out of these people's mouths. Just a lie after lie after lie that can come out of these people's mouths on a daily basis. Right? Britain, right, is not a place for investment. No, there's no big business as not coming to Britain. And one of the main things is the reason why they're not coming here is because of Brexit. Because investing in this country, you're just investing in the 70 million people that live here. Yeah, that's going to be, if you can get like, I don't know, a quarter, an eighth to deal with your product, then you will be very wealthy. I mean, there's no doubting that. I mean, if you could sell, you come over here, if you was to come over here to manufacture cars for this market, and you could sell, and if you could sell like maybe, you probably have to go for, if you could, I don't know if you'd sell 1 million cars. I doubt you would, but you could sell like 150,000, 200,000. And obviously, if you keep, if you're actually, you can't keep the manufacturing cost down because it costs too much money to manufacture anything in this country. Seriously, that's why a lot of the businesses have gone bust, because the manufacturing, after Brexit, the manufacturing costs have been just too high. Gas and electric and water. Right, all these things have just been too high, and so I'm going to speak about all that in other videos anyway. But anyway, look, I'm going to wrap this up because I've been on for quite a while now, and because I haven't had any structure to this video is just populist stuff about what's going on around the world. And I'll tell you something. Yeah, I think the world is in a very, it's a very, very sad place, and as I said earlier, Starmer and Biden have got a very, very good chance, of not winning their elections because of their stance over Israel. Because Starmer, it's not even as if to say, what I tell you what got me about the whole thing, the whole Starmer thing. Look at me, I'm still going. What got me about the whole Starmer thing, right, is that he has no say-so over Netanyahu. He has no say-so over Netanyahu at all. So for him to have just come out and said, well, it's okay for Israel to hold back water and to hold back fuel and basically to starve these people out. It's okay for them to do that. He didn't need to say that. He could have, in the beginning, said, listen, you need to hold back. You can't be bombing in the way how you're bombing. You can't be doing that. He needed to come and say that to Israel from the beginning. But no. So, so Biden and Starmer, both of them have a very, very good chance, right, of losing their elections because of the way. Because you see, I think there's a lot of progressives who are just not going to come out and vote. Full stop. I think that's where the problem is going to be. They're just not going to come out and vote. Full stop. So the world, this world. I mean, if we continue with Sunak and then we get Donald Trump back in as well, right, I think the world is going to be like. It's not going to be a world. It's going to be a terrible world to live in, I think. But for some reason, I don't know. People seem to, People seem to vote for the wrong politicians all the time. Politicians who hate the people. I mean, you can't tell me that any of the Tories in this country like the people. No way. It's not possible, is it? I mean, they've sold off all of our stuff. Gas, water, electric. They've sold it all off. So it's impossible that we can say that the politicians in this country like the people, because if you like the people, you wouldn't treat them as badly as the politicians in this country treat people. Anyway, guys, look, I'm going to wrap this up. My friends, my friends, is by any means necessary. I'm the MC John Ribs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. I'm really happy to be back. I'm as happy to be back as a man who's going to go and see Beetlejuice with Lauren Boebert. And I hope you get that reference. My friends, I shall be back tomorrow with a much more structured video. So, my friends, until we meet again tomorrow, I shall see you soon.